WPA has deliberately refrained from commenting on the ongoing developments surrounding the death of young Adriana Younge. As a mature political party, we recognized exceedingly early that coming on the heels of the double murder of the two young men in Linden, this incident had the capacity to gather steam beyond its specific manifestation. Hence, our decision to adopt a wait-and-see approach. Now, a week after the child's disappearance, has ignited a national crisis which has forced the government to institute a limited state of emergency in the form of a curfew. The question that the country must confront is why the death of a working class child has galvanized a national movement that has spilled over into the Guyanese diaspora. Unfortunately, neither the government, the political opposition, nor civil society has mustered the courage to address this question in a forthright and serious manner. To do so would cause us to question some settled assumptions about where our country is headed. That all of us have become intoxicated with a weird and dangerous notion of Guyanese exceptionalism arising out of our new petro-state status is an understatement. Adriana's death has laid bare a collision of forces and impulses in our society, which we would rather address as isolated aberrations rather than interconnected and interrelated phenomena with ugly undertones and overtones. It took the mysterious death of a child to jolt our nation into the brutal realization that the unprofessionalism of the police force is deeply rooted in the manifest dysfunction of Guyana's governance, its human rights regime, its social relations, its ethno-racial relations, and our general desire to fool ourselves about our progress as a unified nation of shared values. Adriana's death has taught us the sobering lesson that Guyana is a dysfunctional state that is quickly becoming a failed state, of which she, Adriana, is the latest victim. WPA does not have to repeat the chronicle of events that have emerged since the little girl disappeared. All of you have been following it blow by blow each day in the past week. The police instantly invoked its standard operating procedure of politicizing crime fighting. Protection of elite interests took precedence over the safety of a child. The false story put out by the police of the female child entering the car of an adult male is loaded with social, gender, and racial undertones. I repeat, the false story put out by the police of this female child entering the car of an adult male is loaded with social, gender, and racial undertones. WPA says the planting of this story was not accidental. The president's hasty plunge into the fray followed the well-known script of the political boss using his office to sanitize the dirty deeds of the police. The obscene attempt to bribe the family into silence and to threaten potential protests with state violence exposed a vicious autocratic hand. But this time the people had had enough. The bottom of the bucket of tricks fell off. With the scent of the blood of Ronaldo Peters and Ken Fujine fresh in the air, the public consciousness linked Adriana's death to the long trail of state-facilitated murder of powerless citizens. The linkage between police cover-up and government's apparent turning of the proverbial blind eye could not be concealed any longer. What followed is what WPA had long alerted the government and the nation to. Like a massive tide shoved by a force of nature, Guyanese of all stripes took to the streets, to social media, and to anywhere from where they could be heard. Obviously, taken by surprise, the government let loose the very offending police on its own citizens at Lenoro in front of the public hospital. As they did in Linden, the police released volleys of bullets into unarmed crowds. The people scattered but regrouped in acts of defiance. A people's uprising was on the move. It is against this background that the events of Monday night, must be seen. WPA rejects the thesis of the government and some sections of the political opposition that the events of that night were the work of thugs, scrapeheads, looters, and robbers. For the WPA, the events of that night reflected the frustrations of a section of the population that has become tired of being beaten by the government and state. They did what human beings do when cornered by oppressive blows. It was a night of collective release. That sections of the opposition have mimicked government propaganda by describing the events of that night in ugly terms, befitting of non-human beasts, is most distressing. WPA cannot associate itself with those socially and racially bigoted statements. WPA asks, since when blocking roads in public protest is a socio-political sin? Our party has no hesitation in saluting the general protest of the people in the various forms as representing the fullness of Walter Rodney's practice of self-activity of the people. WPA throws its full support behind the continuing mass action of Guyanese in and out of Guyana. Stand up and stand firm. The voice of the people is the voice of justice. Do not let the threat of bullets deter you. Guyana is Adriana, and Adriana is Guyana. Like others, WPA does not promote destruction of public and private property as normal forms of protest. But when people are faced with the bullets of the state, it is understandable that they would reach for extra conventional forms of retaliation. WPA therefore condemns the police military assault on unarmed citizens as the root cause of the nature of Monday night's actions. WPA also rejects attempts by the government and sections of the opposition to link the looting and robberies which took place to the general protest. WPA say we have to separate the two things. These acts of looting are regrettable, but it is well known that legitimate protesters have no control over such activities. WPA is also concerned about the alleged acid attacks on school children. We await more information before making further comments. But for now, we say whether the attacks were privately or politically motivated, they are reprehensible. We know that nobody has been arrested yet. We await more information before we make further comments. Where do we go from here? WPA supports the calls for the resignation or the firing of the Commissioner of Police and other heads of the police force. But we feel the problem is much more fundamental than firing the top police officers. We also hear calls for the professionalization of the police force. But we hasten to observe that for reforms to have any transformative effect, the police force must be depoliticized. And that depoliticization is the prisoner of a political elite which benefits from the politicization of the police force. Like electoral reform and other needed constitutional reforms, police reform is not a straightforward issue. WPA must, as a matter of urgency, join the call for a full and impartial investigation of the circumstances of Adriana Younge's death. The results of the postmortem is not the end of the story. Like most of Guyana, we have no faith in government's investigative agency and agencies. Guyana must not rest until there is real justice for this child's family. But justice must not be a minimalist outcome characterized by money and crocodile tears. It must be grounded in laws and a commitment to protect the lives and well-being of all our children, regardless of color, creed, sex, or social status. WPA extends its heartfelt condolences to the immediate and extended family of this beautiful young soul. May the ancestors welcome her with open arms and put her soul to work for the cause of justice. Thank you.